took off from the foul line, took 3 steps. On the 3rd step,
Good?
he jumped up, took a quarter off the top of the backboard. Looked down
Yeah.
at the basket.
Derek, can you go on Facebook, see if we're live?
That's a good movie.
I think we might be. I think we are.
I don't see it.
No? I just saw something that said restream live. I'm not on it, but it's there. Yeah, I'm good. I think I'm here. Absolutely. Carlos is watching. Hi, Carlos. Margaret's watching. Hey, Margaret. All right, guys. Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay this morning. I just got ahead of myself in the gym. I couldn't stop. It was just an animal. It was a savage this morning. No, but thank you guys for coming in. I really appreciate it. We'll start off real quick by talking about this weekend and how much of a success I feel we had with office's involvement in the BBA basketball tournament that we had on Saturday. It was an amazing turnout. We must have had, I would say, at least 40 plus participants in the game, and then probably an equal amount of people who came to watch. And so we're very close to 100 people in attendance that day, which was awesome. We had a really nice facility. We were able to play multiple games at once, and we had a blast. I mean, it was such a good time. There were people there that obviously I've seen before, and then people I've never seen before, which was really exciting as well. Audio? Oh, we're live on mine? Okay. All right, so let's just let it go. We can share it to the culture. Can you share it to culture, dude? You got my login. Derek has my login. Yeah, so we had a really good time. There was a lot of new faces I saw, a lot of people who didn't know what Culture State was and what we stood for. So it was awesome. Even the mayor stopped in to give us credit, you know, obviously for doing something that most people don't do. And today we're going to talk a lot about those types of things and how it is that you can do something like this. Anyone could do something like this. And even though this event wasn't big in nature, sometimes people stop themselves from even trying. You know, something like this, I've been imagining for multiple years. These types of events have been in my mind for the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years. But we've only done this about the last 2 years. So it's something that I wanted to do for a long time, doubted myself, and you know, now obviously I have the support of many people here who have made it possible. Jolie was an outstanding proponent in getting all this organized. So you know, Derek helped out tremendously. He was pivotal in getting everything ready and helping out at the game as well. And Derek was the mascot in there. It must have been like 90 degrees in there. And he was 120 degrees in that outfit. You know, he was jumping from the basketball court into the suit, back out of the suit onto the basketball court, back into the suit. So he must have dropped like 10 pounds that day. Did you weigh yourself? I'm sure you dropped like 10 pounds, but.
I got told yesterday I lost weight, so.
And then he played soccer on Sunday. So the guy had a pretty intense weekend. So today's topic is going to be self-sabotage. And for those of you who are not familiar with the term self-sabotage, we'll get into that a little bit later. But self-sabotage in a nutshell is just being your worst enemy. Right? Yeah, I mean, you're rooting against the wrong person. I mean, you're just not, you should be your biggest fan. You should not worry about failing at all. Like, you should definitely be a person who's always rooting for yourself and never thinking bad or hoping the worst for yourself. But even though we don't purposely do that, we don't purposely say, oh, I can't wait till I fail, or I'm the worst person who's ever walked the earth and everything I try. We don't necessarily say those things to ourselves out loud, but the actions we take sometimes are even stronger than what we think. So we'll get into that today. Any volunteers for Culture Karaoke this morning? Anyone? Anyone got any songs they've been humming in their head? Hoxan, you want to sing one? No, it could be a Latin song, bro. We could sing Mana. We could sing whatever you want, bro. Anyone? I'll leave that open for a moment, unless Jolie wants to sing. Jolie, you want to sing? Okay. So we've got a worksheet that I'm going to hand out to everyone today. It's a self-sabotage worksheet. We're going to go through that in a moment. We're going to have a discussion, which is going to be very interactive with you guys. I want you guys to participate in it as much as I am, because obviously I can sit here and tell you all about my experience with self-sabotage, but it's more important to hear all different aspects and walks of life about self-sabotage. Then we'll break them into a quick group activity. We'll work on this worksheet together as a group, maybe pair it up in twos. We did have Steve Salami coming in. He is a real estate attorney. He was invited here by Tiffany Gary, but he called in that he was sick. He has a bronchitis, I believe, so he's not going to be attending today. Then we're going to have our announcements. But before we close out, we're going to have Mike Giglio today. He's going to, for those of you who don't know, Mike Giglio is one of our camera operators, our media people that works here in Culture Estate, and he's going to tell us about his background and his reason for doing what he does and his plans for the future. So with that being said, Joelle, we have anyone, or do you want to do it? You want to do it? No. You're the last one to get here, so I think it should be the new rules. Last person to get here has to sing culture. Has to sing culture karaoke. I think that's a good way to start it. Come on, I'll sing with you. I'll sing with you. Yeah, she did let it go last week.
And she's trying to hide in the back, by the way.
Yeah, come on, Jolie, I'll sing with you.
Ooh, I fear victory right now.
Yeah, but you. Yeah, but time already expired though. I had already called for the last person. You gonna sing with me, bro?
No, he came in right after him. I don't know. Thank you, bro.
Jolie, we're singing? Huh? Come on, Ed, let's sing something. What you got on your mind? What you been humming all weekend? What you been humming all weekend in your head? Baby Shark? Let's do it. Come on. Let's do it. Oh, by the way, guys, for those of you who don't know, Ed is the Swiss Army knife of the real estate industry. I don't know if you guys seen this yet. It's going up very soon. He was featured on Joe Fairless's podcast last week. For those of you who haven't heard it, it was really, really good. Yep. Check him out. You guys are savage.
Baby Shark, Adam Lou.
Good way to start the day. Not Baby Shark. Baby Shark.
Are we'll do the whole thing, or are we only doing like a 30-second?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not that long.
Yeah, it's not that long. I mean, they have the remixes too. Do I got internet?
This is a real estate meeting.
Yeah, we got started with let me just get the internet working. Joelle, you're not off the hook. You were the technical last one here, so we should do a. If I can spell karaoke. Oh, this is not my channel. I'm like looking for on my channel.
You don't have it on your channel?
No, it's not supposed to be on my channel. I'm just supposed
I'm messing.
There we go. It's like confused, like, why? You don't have any Baby Shark songs. Oh, man, they actually have the karaoke for this. You're in luck today.
I was going to say, I'd be shocked. It's not many words to know, but do you know this one, Mike? Come on.
Is this on? Yeah, it's on. Okay, bud. So you gotta wait for the letters to actually get highlighted to start singing it. You get it?
Believe it or not, I've done karaoke.
Oh, so you know, because last week.
I can do that. Yeah.
There you go, bro. Okay, guys.
Do it.
Ready? You gotta do the Baby Shark.
Baby Shark do 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 do. Baby Shark do 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 do. Baby Shark do 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 do. Baby Shark.
There you go.
Mama Shark do 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 do. Mama Shark do 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 do. Mama Shark do 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 do. Mama Shark.
Yeah, I can't stop laughing.
Daddy Shark.
Oh, man. Daddy Shark, there you go, man. Yeah, she got no teeth. Grandma Shark, do 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 do. Grandma Shark, Grandma Shark, Grandpa Shark. He knows them all, bro. He knows them all.
Grandpa Shark, do
All right.
Grab a shot.
All right, let's go there, man.
Let's go hunt do do.
Oh, you have to keep going.
Let's go hunt do 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 do. Let's go hunt do 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 do. Let's go hunt.
Good job, bro.
Run away do 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 do. Run away.
Yeah, you can run away now, bro. See, that's what I call sport, man. He's a trooper.
Said this is a real estate.
Oh, that was great. Great way to start the day, though. You're a savage. Oof. Okay. All right, so let's jump into our meeting today. Hopefully, we'll cut out a little early since we don't have our guest speaker here, unless Mike wants to really go deep. You want to go deep, bro? We'll go deep. All right, good job, Ed. And whenever I need someone to entertain a kids party, bro, I know who to call.
Start a whole new business.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's just have our discussion with the self-sabotage. And what is self-sabotage? So it's defined as the behavior is said to be a self-sabotaging when it creates problems in our life and interferes with long-standing goals. Among the most common self-sabotaging behaviors are procrastination, self-medication with drugs or alcohol, or comfort eating, and forms of self-injury such as cutting. So that's pretty intense. And sometimes we do some of the lighter things here, such as procrastination, which we think sometimes is healthy. Like I hear a lot of people sometimes say, I'll do this when that happens. Like you always create obstacles for yourself to not start. And I used to always be blind to that. And when I catch people saying that now, I'm like, no, that's procrastination. Don't even think about that. Oh, I'll start a channel when I learn how to speak. Or I'll start this when I do that. You're like, no, dude, you're never going to be perfectly ready. Derek?
I also read an article about procrastination a while back that says the more stressed you are, the more likely you are to do it.
The more stressed,
The more stressed you are,
the more likely you are to procrastinate?
Yeah.
Because you have too much stuff jumbled up in your head and you don't know what to start first?
Yeah.
And I think when I find myself like that a lot of times too, the easiest way to get out of that is to write it all down. Get it out of your head and onto paper. What about you, Derek? What do you do when you're feeling like stressed out? You write it all the time, right? Yeah, he's really good with stuff like that. The opposite of self-sabotage is self-confidence. The definition of self-confidence is a feeling of trust in one's abilities, qualities, and judgment. So we're gonna try to figure out in our lives how we're self-sabotaging ourselves and how we can turn that into self-confidence instead, because they're opposite, they're polar ends of each other. So let's go ahead and see what our presentation tells us today. Quote for today is, the enemy within is far more powerful than any insignificant foe or problem we will ever face. So what this means to me is that no matter what problem we have in front of us or what person is trying to do us harm, there really is no harm that could be done to us unless we allow it to take a toll on us. If we can block all negativity, we could block those people and not let them have power over us, then at the end of the day, we're more powerful than our enemies. But if we let that get into us and we start having that negative self-talk, then we've given them too much power, and that little voice inside our head has taken over, which is basically just you. It's just you talking to yourself. So if there's always going to be people in your life, especially when you're doing good and you're doing better than other people, there's always going to be people who are jealous or they feel inadequate next to you. So they're going to give you obstacles. They're going to give you roadblocks. There's going to be inspectors. There's going to be police officers. There's going to be people who are giving you hard times. And it's not personal. Sometimes people are just doing their jobs, but we sometimes take that as the end of the road, or I can't do it because of them. So what we need to do is just take that voice out of our head and say, okay, well, that's just a small issue and I got to figure out how to work around it. Or that's a learning lesson. Or that's something I'm going to take as an advantage and I'm going to teach other people about not having that same mistake. So there's a lot of things you can do when life gives you a hard time. If you're coming up against, even people who have been faced against, almost, death, they've found ways to bring the best out of that, and they find ways to actually learn from it, and they get through it, because you can get through an illness a lot better with a positive mentality and positive outlook than you can if you've already counted yourself out. A lot of cancer patients have reported that the fact that they've done so well, even though the doctors said that they weren't going to make it, it's because of the self-talk. But when you're quick to give up and throw in the towel, you're self-sabotaging yourself. All that matters is what you tell yourself, is what the brain tells yourself as an individual. There's been studies done when people have gotten, and I just read this over the weekend, there's studies done where people have actually underwent fake knee surgery, and there's people who have gotten real knee surgery, and after being told that they actually got real knee surgery, they had the same recovery rate as the people who actually had the knee surgery. And it's because their mind told them that they actually underwent a surgery when they really didn't have anything. These are real tests. that were done. And that's how strong our minds are. Our minds can heal ourselves if we believe that what we are after, we have already received or we've gotten. So this is just how powerful the mind can be. But the mind can also be the opposite. It could also be the most detrimental thing in our lives. It could be the most harmful thing in our lives. It could really go against us in our most neediest times. So we need to learn how to pick out those times in our life when we're working against ourselves instead of for ourselves. Even though sometimes we put on like a very happy persona, I know sometimes we all face it. I face it all the time. You know, this weekend was very stressful for me trying to get this thing running, this basketball tournament that we had running. And there were times when I was like very optimistic, and there were times where I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be terrible. Like I felt like a few days beforehand, like we weren't gonna have enough players. You know, I was stressing out about that. And then the day of, you know, we had little last minute things that popped up. But all those little things were working towards sabotaging my outlook. But then when it all happened and everything started flowing and everything worked so well, you know, I thought to myself looking back, oh my God, I almost let those little things, those little obstacles take over my day. It's kind of like the bridezilla effect. You guys ever heard of bridezilla? Like the bride wants everything to be perfect the day of the wedding. You get a little rain, she's freaking out. You know, the bridesmaid's dress, maybe you got a stain on it or something, and they're like freaking out. But then after everything is over, you know, they're the happiest people in the world. So a lot of times beforehand, we want everything to be so perfect, and we beat ourselves up when it's not. And that's self-sabotage, because we're causing ourselves stress and harm. So we don't want to do that. So let's talk about the first type of self-sabotage that we could possibly face in our lives. One of the first ones is relationships. So I don't know about anyone in this room, but I know people, thankfully not myself, but I know people who purposely avoid relationships so they can protect themselves from not being hurt, because they already have created the outcome in their mind. They've already created the fact that I know if I get into a relationship, that person is going to leave me. If I get into a relationship, that person is going to get tired of me because I'm inadequate. That person is not going to like the way that I do this or the way I do that. Or, you know what, I just feel like I'm not worthy of a partner or something like that. I'm not sure if you guys have ever known anyone to act this way. Or sometimes people isolate themselves from other people purposely. Like they don't come around other people because they don't want to get hurt. Maybe they had problems early on in life when maybe one of their parents abandoned them, or maybe, who knows, or maybe they had a bad relationship early on and they're just, you know, paralyzed because of it. So relationships could be one of the things that you can self-sabotage yourself with, because not that we have to meet every single person in the world or be a social butterfly, but we should always have, how would I say, an optimistic mindset of when we do, let's just say we are single or that we don't have a partner in life, and we come to the table with this negative mentality that's not going to work. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to shoo that person away, and the person's going to say, I don't want to be around this person. They're so negative all the time. They're so pessimistic. You know, attractive people don't just mean attractive physically. Attractive people mean people who bring a smile to your face, people who enjoy, light up a room when you come in. You know, there's people that I know always constantly walk around with a good attitude, and those are the kind of people who have not only people attracted to them, but also opportunities being attracted to them. But it all starts with what you tell yourself. When you're becoming a relationship, let's just say you start in a new office, let's say you become an agent and you walk into a new office, there's a lot of people to now interact with. And not that you're going to fit, you know, perfectly with everyone, but you should interact well with other people. What sometimes people do is they isolate themselves, and I've seen this now more and more now that the office is growing. I see there's a lot of people who show up the first day and they're very ambitious and they have you know, all these ideas that they're going to do, and then you never see them again. And I started to think in the beginning that, you know, maybe I'm doing something wrong, or maybe someone offended them, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But what I learned after a while is that it's self-sabotage. They're telling themselves, oh, you know what, I haven't been there in a week, so people are going to think that, you know, I'm no good. Or I'm only part-time, so people are going to think like my production is bad. Or, you know what, I don't think anyone's going to like me, or they're going to make fun of the way I dress. That's all self-sabotage. And what you're doing is you're creating the opposite effect of what you want. You want people to enjoy spending time with you. You want to bring opportunities to yourself. But all you're doing is telling yourself that I can't because I'm inadequate. And all sort of ways that you're talking to yourself, at the end of the day, you never show up because you just don't want to be around others, because you just feel like, you know, you've messed up in life. You have something going against you that they don't. and you're trying to constantly compare yourself, and it shouldn't be that way. We're all here a work in progress. There's nobody here in this room, especially myself, who could say, you know what, there's no aspect of my life that I can improve on. I can improve on every aspect of my life. And that's why sometimes when I see an agent that I haven't seen in a while, I say, you know, I like seeing you here. Come around more often. You know, we love you here. You know, and then I tell them this, you know, hoping that they understand that it's okay you haven't been here in 2 weeks, a month. You know, it's all right. Just come in as much as possible. And I guarantee you, the more you come in, the more business you'll do. It's just a rule of nature. It's a rule of thumb. More, you know, the people you don't see are the people that you're not going to, you know, give referrals out to, or you're not going to work with as closely or offer an open house to. But people who you see more, like, you know, it's out of sight, out of mind, how they say it. People you see more, you tend to interact with more. Even in the beginning, when you don't know them that well, you might start off a little rough, but then after a couple of days, you never know who you're going to be friends with. You guys remember the first day of school? Like, everyone is just look at each other like, you know, who are you, right? But then the person you thought you weren't going to connect with was the person you ended up connecting with the most. You know, very unlikely people. But sometimes we end up judging people before we know them. And, you know, and then we stress out when they do it to us. So we just have to give people the opportunity to get to know us, and vice versa. So the way I want to do this is I want you guys to give me an example of this in your life, or in someone, if you know someone who is like this. But I'd like to get a, you know, you don't have to name names, and you don't even have to say it's yourself, but you guys can give me an example of what you feel sabotages relationships within a person. Alejandro?
Like myself, I was the only child.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my comfort zone is be by myself, because that's how I was raised.
That's all you knew.
I was raised to have like imaginary friends.
Imaginary friends? You didn't have no neighbors?
I have friends, but no.
No?
So that's my comfort zone. So sometimes when somebody get too close to me, I feel a bit uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But with the years, I'll be working on it, because obviously I don't want to be with myself my whole life, right?
You can't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not why we're put here.
Working on it. But even friends or your girlfriend, when they get too close, so it made me feel like, it's like kind of I sabotage myself. But you know, I notice it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be working on it, and I get better.
That's good. That's good. That's excellent. That's a really good point that you brought up there. Sometimes people grow up by themselves, and that's all they know, and that's all they like. Like, there should be a balance in life. Like, I like being by myself sometimes, because you get to clear your mind, have your thoughts in place. But then sometimes you need to be around people, because that's when your wheels start turning. That's when you start to get ideas, and you start to get energy that you feed off of others. It's really hard to pump yourself up when you're by yourself. You know, it's very hard. It's easy to let little things get in your head. So there has to be a good balance, and that's a good point you brought up, Alejandro. Is that sometimes people don't do it because, you know, they don't want to communicate with people. It's just they never knew how, because they grew up by themselves. That's a really good point. So you've overcome it. If anyone looks like Alejandro now, he's always in the office. He's always interacting. He's always helping. Guy's always, you know, around someone. So you've done a great job, no matter what it is that you tell yourself, but you've done the right thing. All right, next thing is obsessing over the negative. Right, this is a really good thing that was brought up when I did the research, is obsessing over the negative, because I gave you guys a perfect example of something so great that happened over the weekend, which was our basketball tournament, that we raised a lot of money for this charity, and I forgot for a moment that was the whole reason why we were doing this. Not so I can have a perfect this or a perfect number of players or an even amount of teams. It was never about any of that. The whole cause the whole time was to raise money for this charity. But I lost track of that, and I obsessed at times over little things. And I started to let it get to me, even though I don't show it much, but I do let it get me frustrated. So in life, this happens a lot, not just obviously this weekend, but in life this can happen a lot, because there are so many things that happen to us every single day that we don't take gratitude for. The fact that we're breathing, the fact that we can walk, the fact that we have a car, a house, food, you know, these are things that we're not grateful for, but they're the most essential things in life. But sometimes when our Amazon package got lost in the mail and we're stressing out, you know, like it's crazy. But sometimes what happens is that we do this to ourselves because we allow ourselves to get all bent out of shape over small stuff, over the little things. And there's a saying that says, never sweat the small stuff. Huh?
Pushes the positives out.
Exactly. Pushes all the negative things out. You know, there's a really good saying that says, if you lost $1 and you're stressing so much about your dollar you lost, would you burn the other 99 dollars you have just because you lost the first? No. So why should you do that with your day? If you're stressing over something so much in the beginning part of your day, you're going to throw the rest of your day out because of the small thing that happened early on. So you wouldn't do that with money, so why do that with your day, which your time is money. So at the end of the day, it's really the same stuff. So obsessing over negative stuff is really something that we're all very capable of doing, and I'm sure we all do at times. I do myself, obsess over the negative things, but I always now, at least I catch myself. You know, that's the beginning. When you can catch yourself. When you don't, when you're not conscious that you're doing it, that's the problem. Because when you're not conscious, it just becomes a way of life. It just becomes ingrained in you as being normal. And if you hang around other people who do the same thing, then you're really in trouble. What you need to do is you need to be around people who are not going to be the negative talkers, people who are going to be optimistic, people who are going to be pushing you forward, and people who are all conscious that negativity exists and it's a real thing, and we have to do our best every day to try to avoid it. We always have to find the silver lining in everything. We always have to try to find the best out of the situation. With every bad situation, guys, I guarantee you there's always a good thing that can come out of it. But if you don't open your eyes, you'll never see it. You're only going to see the bad thing. There's that exercise that I did to you guys last year. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's the gorilla test, when the guys are passing the ball around in a circle, and you're given an assignment to count how many times the ball has been passed around with the people in the white shirts. And there's people in white shirts, there's people in black shirts. But meanwhile, this gorilla walks past the screen, beats his chest, and then walks off the screen. And then afterwards, the people are asked, did you see the gorilla? And more than half the people never saw the gorilla, because they're so focused on the one thing. All these other things happen around you that you never even see because you're so focused on that one thing. So with us, sometimes we get so paralyzed in thinking about the negative things in life that we never see the opportunities that are just floating right past us. With every problem, there is an opportunity. I'll tell you right now, I heard over the last week, I was listening to the founder of Venmo. You guys all know Venmo. I'm probably the last one to jump on Venmo. But Venmo was created by two guys who were dead broke out of college, coming out of college, had no idea what they wanted to do. They were computer engineers, had no idea what they wanted to do. The one guy left went to go visit his friend in New York City. He was living in Philly at the time, and he forgot his wallet at home. So the whole time, his friend had to spot him. So, you know, in the beginning, it was okay, but towards the end, it started to get more uncomfortable. And at the very end, like the last dinner they had, you could tell there was a lot of tension at the table. So out of that problem, or out of that thing that could have been a negative circumstance, they had the aha moment at the very same time. They were like, wait, what if I could just pay you with my phone? I could just pay you back. And then they created Venmo out of that opportunity that was there because there was a problem. But if you would have taken that same situation and been like, oh man, this guy Peter, man, he's such a, you know, he's always doing this. He does it on purpose. Either he's too forgetful or he's doing it on purpose. Either way, he's a bad dude. He's a scumbag. I don't like hanging out with guys like that. And you could have severed that friendship, and you probably would have never spoke again after that week or that weekend, even if you would have gotten paid back. So what they did was they took that circumstance, and instead of dwelling on the negative, they came up with this project that they later sold for $26 million, like a couple years down the road, or so far down the road, which was then, believe it or not, was sold for $800 million to PayPal, who now owns Venmo, which is crazy. So they should have held on a little longer, I think. So.
Every business is the same.
Yeah.
If you hold on too long, you don't know what's gonna happen.
You don't know.
Get stuck.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a good thing is he stayed on, and I'm sure he took stock in the company, so he probably did okay. So that was definitely something that I learned from. And, you know, sometimes life gives you these things that you can take away from as being positive or being negative, and I've been there too. I want someone to give me an example of obsessing over the negative and what you might have missed if you would have obsessed too long. If you can, Joey doesn't have the randomizer out today, but if anyone could give me.
I'm fine. I'm just
Yeah.
the king of this, man.
Yeah, Ed, tell me, man.
How many negative situations do you want me to talk about?
The one that's most recent.
For me, I guess, just real brief, most
Yeah.
recent. I have a bad situation. I just rented my apartment.
Yep.
And my tenant called me, and now I have rats.
Yeah.
So, like, that is something that will definitely consume my life for a few days while that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I'd say that I've learned, so I guess like you said, is acknowledging it first. I mean, generally I acknowledge that I do obsess over the negative no matter what.
Yeah.
person. I mean, I'm looking for advice, but
Yeah.
I can be negative. But what I've learned to do is just not react right away. So
Just breathe.
yeah, because I mean I've learned that from you
Mhm.
because I would have just been like, oh my god, I gotta rent. Like I would have flipped out. I would have called this. Would have been run all over the place, you know. But I realized, okay, there's nothing I can do about this right this second.
Mhm.
So take a step back, look at the situation, and how do you handle the problem. So I've learned to step away, see what's really going on. There's multiple things that need to happen. It's not just get some rat poison. Why do
Mhm.
we have them?
Sure.
How do we prevent them? How do we clean it up?
Yep.
How do we kill them? Right? There's this whole process that goes into it, and I'm learning to step back.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what you learned from that situation is probably not going in the future before you put people into apartments. You'll probably bait for rats before they even go in, and this won't even be an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that there was holes in the basement
Mhm.
walls, like to get outside even. And
Yeah.
I just didn't even, honestly, like I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, whatever. Like how many houses probably have little, you know,
Yeah.
little areas and critters. And I was like, we'll get to it when I have
Mhm.
more money down the road.
Yeah.
And you know, like you said, yeah, it's definitely. I'm also going to run the tub as well for a while
Mhm.
because I've been caught on that twice now, where I've been at a rehab. I flipped the house once, and the tub drain was clogged from all the debris.
Yeah.
And it actually overflowed the toilet in the floor below.
Mhm.
And then I had another rehab where this is actually my rental as well, where the leaked out into the apartment below.
Yeah.
So just, but
It's
again,
preventive measures.
little things.
Yeah. Yeah, we've learned that as well, that you have to always take a look at that drain before you put anyone in those houses because it becomes an issue. Alejandro?
What I learned helped me a lot because I do a lot of like self-sabotage and I start thinking, oh, how about this happen? And it's not even happening, but I just
Mhm.
like bringing the, like thinking about the plan without even happening right now. Let's say, for example, at the church,
Yeah.
you know, I was losing sleep on the Hillside situation because I'm like, oh my God, he's just gonna lose
His money.
the deposit,
Yeah.
$32,000, and I'm like, it's not even happened yet.
No.
But
It's like the what
I'm
if.
like telling myself,
Live the what
oh
if.
my God, it's gonna happen. So what I learned doing is like, instead of focus on that, just change my focus. If I start stressing me out thinking over that, I just switch and I start thank you for everything. Thank you God.
Mhm.
And it's like I just changed my whole focus for the whole day.
Yeah, it's tough. It's difficult. And you dwelling on the negative also prevents you from coming up with solutions. You know, it really just wastes your time. And you're your production levels go to nothing when you're being negative. Tom, you were going to say something?
Yeah, the more experience you get, I think, in life, you learn to identify negatives before they happen
Mm-hmm.
and have solutions planned.
Of course.
If this happens, I'm going to do so-and-so.
Absolutely.
And if this happens, I'm going to do so-and-so.
Ed, go ahead.
You start planning them. If you plan how to solve the problems before they happen, I think that helps you too.
Oh, of course, being proactive is a
Mhm.
big thing. Ed, you had your hand up for something?
Yeah, so something that my wife sent this to me, this post on Instagram that she saw, is if you stress too much about something before it happens, you basically put yourself through it twice.
Yes, true.
So,
That's true.
you know, you're going to have to encounter and go through it. So why stress so hard about it beforehand? It actually, this quote, you know, really hit me, something to think about.
Or even worse, you might put yourself through it for no reason
Right.
because it may
Might
never
not
happen. Exactly. So that's another. Either way, you're putting yourself in a bad position. Okay. Next is immersion in fear. So this is self-sabotage as well because sometimes we let our fear get such a stronghold on us that it paralyzes us from moving forward on the next chapter of our life. It can happen with as little as maybe going to a listing appointment that a for sale by owner sign you saw and you're worried that maybe they might judge you or maybe they might think something of your car or maybe they think that you're not seasoned enough or you don't know the area enough. And you don't go because you're scared of the pain that may be associated with that event. But the problem is that if we're always looking for safety and we're never looking to expand ourselves, we're never going to grow. So fear is what paralyzes most of us from taking. Fear is the reason why most of us live the life that we have, not the life that we want. Think about it. We all live two lives, the one we have and the one we want. And if we don't live the life we want, it's probably because a lot of that is all based upon fear. Because there is no reason why you guys can't have everything you want in life. There is no reason why you can't have a perfect relationship. There is a reason why you can't have the house you want, the car you want, if you stop worrying about the fear and what other people are going to think of you, and if you fail, if it hurts. Because what hurts more? Does it hurt more to get rejected, or does it hurt more to live the life that you have and not the one you want? Think to yourself. Ask yourself that question. There's a lot of good you can do with the other life that you want for yourself. If you're in a position right now where you're living your best life and you guys are on track to do everything that you want for yourselves, then don't worry, just keep it up. Do more of that. Find a way to 10x that, or do more of it. Help other people too. Because if you help other people with that, then you're also learning it twice. You're learning, you're observing it, and then you're also teaching it, so you're learning it all over again. And that really becomes ingrained in you. So, but fear, let's get back to fear. Fear is something no more than just a story that we tell ourselves. So there is no bigger, in my opinion, there is no bigger self-sabotaging than creating fearful circumstances. You know, and I always go back to this, but one of my biggest fears that hopefully one day I will overcome is falling out of an airplane. Like if you jump out of an airplane with a parachute on it, you know, yeah, of course, you know, you're probably going to survive it. But it's that fear that I have, that I create. Like, well, what if the parachute doesn't open? And I really, you know what? I take that back. I'm not so worried about the parachute not opening. I'm just more paralyzed about that falling feeling that you get in your stomach that I hate. I hate that feeling. And I just feel like it's going to be overwhelming. So that's probably my biggest fear. But who knows? I'll probably end up loving it and wanting to get right back on the plane. You know, that's usually what happens when people who let the fear get the best of them. Because that's really how it's been in most of the circumstances that I've had in my life. When I've been fearful of something, I just do it. I'm like, wow, that was awesome. That was pretty cool. You know, that was nothing there. It was just an idea that I had in my head. So that happens with everything in life. Like if I was fearful, if I was fearful to stand up here and give you guys a lesson, like, oh my God, I got to talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I don't know what I'm going to say. You know, a lot of us wouldn't be as well off, and I definitely wouldn't be as well off, because I'm learning as I'm teaching. I have to do the research. I have to, you know, stand this in front of people sometimes that I don't know and say this, and it prepares me because I'm pushing myself. You know, I was fearful of talking in front of people, but I pushed myself, and now I can do this in an audience of, you know, way more people than we have here. But I would never be able to do that if I didn't take the baby step. If I didn't have 3 realtors around, you know, sitting around the table, and me starting that way, you know, and we've grown. But now you guys could think to yourselves, what it is it that you really want for yourself? What is it that you wanted for yourself? And you haven't done it because you're so damn scared of getting rejected. You see, our minds, our brains are programmed for survival. So what that means is that our mind always wants us to move away from pain and towards pleasure. Okay, so what our minds do and does is it's sabotaging itself because it's ingrained to do that, because it's a survival mechanism. And we don't realize it. We think it's just normal. It's not normal. We can, if we're conscious of it, we need to do something. It's your responsibility to do something about it. So if you think to yourself, what is it that I do when I get stressed out? I don't want to deal with it, so I go and I smoke a cigarette. And what happens, you move in away from the pain, you move in towards the pleasure, because the cigarette calms you. It gives you this little temporary fix. But what you're doing is you're just prolonging the problem, and you're causing yourself more harm. All right, you get into a fight with your wife or your husband. You go and you start drinking. What happens? Yeah, you numb the pain. You move away from the pain. You go towards the pleasure. But in the long run, you become an alcoholic and you die of cirrhosis of the liver. You know, but these are the things that we do to ourselves because we don't want to deal with the underlying issue. We're fearful of dealing with what we need to deal with. And if we get over our fear of what may happen, which will probably never happen, chances are they probably will never happen, or probably doesn't even exist. Remember, as kids, we used to be scared of, you know, going downstairs and getting a glass of water because we were scared of the boogeyman. And, you know, those things never really existed. But it's our brain. It's our extremely old brain, our reptilian part of our brain, that just always wants to keep us safe, even though there's nothing to be worried about. There really isn't anything. You know, we are fearful of things that will have no impact on us and have no real power over us. But we get in our cars every day and we drive 60, 70 miles an hour down a street, sometimes with no divider, when someone can just fall asleep behind a wheel, and that's the end of our lives. But we're not fearful of that because we don't fixate on that. We don't fix our minds on that. We fixate our minds over things that probably will never happen. So if we're okay with walking across the street, driving our cars, getting on airplanes, then why aren't we okay with everything else when those things are probably a lot more dangerous than anything else? So anyone have a story with fear that you guys can tell me about? Tell me, Tom, please.
When I was a little boy, my mother and I got stuck in an elevator for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
The elevator wouldn't
Wow.
move. We couldn't get out. We were stuck in there.
Uh-huh.
And they actually had to come in through a window in the top of the thing to
That's
get
crazy.
the thing to work again, you know.
Uh-huh.
And until I was probably 40 years old, I said, I'm not riding on any elevator
Wow.
as much as I could.
You're traumatized.
And then one time I found an elevator that was wide open, you know, you can see everything out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife was at the mall, and she shopped for an hour or two, and I rode the elevator.
Oh, you kept going up and down?
Up and down, up and down, up and down, get off a few minutes, go back and get on. He kept looking, I thought, hey, I believe this thing's gonna work. And it sort of, when they closed the door on an elevator, I'm like this right
Mhm.
now. I'm thinking about it, I got goosebumps. But if you know, if you recognize it and you practice it enough,
Mhm.
and you look at it enough and approach it enough, you can overcome a lot of that
Yeah.
stuff too.
Absolutely. My friend, out of nowhere, he developed a fear of bridges. And he started to become paranoid and just couldn't even drive. He had to pull over, like if he got on a bridge. And so just to mess with him, I used to go on bridges and take pictures and just send it to him. And he'd open up, I didn't know. I don't know, but it's funny because that's sometimes our minds, you know, we just don't know. Maybe something happened to us as a child, like Tom said, and then that's it. It's a wrap, you know.
Yeah, every time I got on one, I think about somebody coming through the top of that thing to get us out.
Correct. Yeah.
You know?
It's scary.
The thing is going up and down fine, and I'm still looking up there to see if that guy's going to show up.
Yeah. Has anyone got any other stories about fear? Derek?
So I found this out a couple of weeks ago actually. When I was really, really little, I used to live in Elizabeth with my parents and my grandparents. And there was like a family friend who would come every year for Halloween. And he would dress as he had like a clown mask or whatever. It was a clown mask, I think, with a cigarette coming out of his mouth, like a little black top hat, whatever it was. And my parents were talking about this guy a couple of weeks ago, and the only thing that I remember of him was that mask, and they were surprised that I remember because I was like really little. I was probably like 2 or 3,
Mm-hmm.
and I was terrified of clowns until I was probably like 16, and I had no idea why. Like I just saw one, I was just like, okay, like stand over there, like you come too close to me, I might hit you. But I never knew why, and then it kind of like clicked. Like I think that might be it.
Yeah.
Because I was so little that didn't even know that I remembered the guy or the clown mask or whatever it was, or
Yeah.
what.
Well, clowns are just creepy, dude. No, I don't blame you. Yeah, that's good though. That's what happens in our lives. Sometimes we're just traumatized or something in there, and instead of facing it, we go away from it. That's the problem. And we've all in our lives, from kindergarten to, today, we've been laughed at. Especially in school. You guys remember in school, we've been teased, laughed at, and we've been put through it. And what our minds are programmed to do now is not to take chances because we don't want to be laughed at, criticized, judged. But then what happens is that when you're in your later years, or maybe you're facing death, you think to yourself, damn, I wish I would have tried that, or I wish I would have done that when I could, or now I have too many obligations, I have kids, I have all this, and I haven't tried any of that stuff. You don't want to live your life with regrets. I have a saying upstairs. I wrote it on the board that says, discipline weighs ounces, and regrets weigh tons. So you don't ever want to give yourself that type of weight on your shoulders that you didn't try your best, or you didn't go forth and do what you wanted to do, if it's healthy for you, if it's a good thing for you. Right. So let's move on to our next topic. Underestimate your worth. This happens to a lot of the real estate agents as they start in this business, and especially the ones that want to start investing. They all come to me like, oh, I want to start investing, but I don't have any money. How do I do it? And I said, well, you partner up with an investor and you bring the property to the table. And but I don't have any money. I'm like, but I just told you, you bring the property to the table. Okay, but why would they do that with me? Why would they partner with me and give me half? I said, well, first of all, you're not valuing what you do. If you valued what you do, you would know that your part has more value than their money, because you can find money just about anywhere, but good luck to them trying to find a property. Them properties are not that available. Money is stupid abundant. You can find money anywhere. You find the right property, anyone will partner up with you. Anyone. I mean, anyone who has half a brain, if you bring a good property to the table, they'll find the money. So underestimating what you guys do for a living and what you're worth and what you do is one of the biggest self-saboteurs out there. If you don't get a grip on what your value is, then you're always going to stay in your mind not being worth much. If you feel like you're more valuable than all the money that you could possibly think of that's in your life right now, then you'll grow into that. Your mind has a way of equalizing everything. So if you keep thinking you're worth $1 million and you're worth at least $1 million in the bank, your mind's going to find a way to have $1 million in the bank. But if you keep telling yourself that you're not worth this and you can't do that because the investors have so much more to bring to the table, then when you go and approach an investor about a property, you're going to sound very timid and they're going to take advantage of you because you're going to sound like you really don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in your product, you don't believe what you're bringing to the table. So they're going to be bringing in the money, so that means that they have all the power. What you need to do is, if this is something that you guys are interested in doing as an agent, become an investor, you need to come to them and say, listen, I have a great opportunity for you, not for me. I have a great opportunity for you. I'm coming in with a property. I'm getting a property, or I have a property under control. I just need an investor partner who's going to bring in the money. And if they say to you, okay, what are you bringing to the table? Like, I just told you, I'm bringing in the property. If that's not enough for you, I'm sorry, I must have picked the wrong person. You know, I do have other investors that I can call up, and a drop of a dime, they'll jump on this property with me. Because nowadays there are not that many good properties. So you guys have to know what you guys are worth. Don't let anyone ever beat you up and say, no, I don't want to sign your exclusive buyer's agreement. No, I don't want to pay you $10,000 if you get me a share of sale deal. No, it's okay. Not everyone has to be your client. And you have to understand that if you don't value yourself and your worth, then no one else will either. Okay, so it's give and take in life. It's not all one way. You have to be fair, but they have to be fair to you too. So keep in mind that you all are worth exactly what you think you're worth. There's a thing called the financial thermostat that we all have, whether you know about it or not. A thermostat is a regulator on a wall. When the temperature is raised on it, it goes to a certain level, the room equalizes, and then it stops, right? When you turn it down, it drops down, the room drops down in temperature, then it stops. So we're built with this as well. What we have is we have a financial thermostat built into our brains. If we feel like we're only worth $100,000, once we hit $100,000, the thermostat's going to stop. And that's the same thing with us. But once we feel like we're worth millions, and we should be worth millions, or we have millions, a billion, whatever you guys want to be worth, I don't even care. Maybe we'll get hyperinflation. We'll all be millionaires in a couple years. Who knows? But if you guys want that for yourselves, start believing it and start really programming your mind that that is what you're worth. And you will find a way, because the mind is very, very powerful. I just told you guys how someone can heal themselves from a knee injury by just imagining that they had a knee surgery. So if you can imagine that you have $1 million in the bank, or you have 100 real estate properties, or you have 100 transactions a year, your mind finds a way. There always will find a way. It's not impossible. If someone called you and said, we have kidnapped your son or daughter, and we need $100,000 by next month, you'll find a way, because your mind is going to be so focused on that. That's all you're ever going to think about, and then you're going to make it happen. But the problem is that we don't really want it bad enough. If we wanted it bad enough, we would find a way. Just like we find a way to breathe, we find a way to drink water, we find a way to eat, we have to find a way to program our brains to understand what we're worth, and then we will get what we want. Only then will you see all the fruits of your labor. Well, let's go back to that. Has anyone underestimated what they were worth and then realized that they were underestimating themselves the whole time? Alejandro?
Yeah, myself, when I started working, I brought investors, and I was like, they didn't believe in me or anybody, and now it's like they just keep calling properties and new property. I said,
You must be doing something right, right?
I said, well, when I have it, I blast them.
Yeah, but in the beginning, you didn't think you were going to be able to produce for them, right?
Yeah, exactly. But as you're doing it, you get more comfortable, and then it's just like.
But you could have talked yourself out of even trying.
That's true.
Right? You could have talked yourself out of trying, but at that point, when we all start, when we're all new at something, we're a little bit hesitant, of course, and we're all a little doubtful of ourselves. And that's natural, because just like anything else, if you've never ice skated before and you go ice skate the first time, yeah, expect to fall, or skiing, or whatever. You're gonna have some falls, but it's all about how you recover. It's more important. It makes up for it than actually falling, because we all fall, and we all have to fall, and we have to do that in order enough times to learn from it. And the same thing with what you said, Alejandro. Of course, you have to, you started off as an investor, working with investors, and you not that I say you've made many mistakes, but you've probably made some small mistakes that have not really amounted to anything serious, but you're learning from all other people's mistakes, and then you're also learning from small things that you might have missed. But now you're getting to the point where you believe in yourself and what you deliver so much, and you know your worth, and now investors are starting to come to you and asking you for the business instead of the other way around, because you've proven yourself so much. And I guarantee if you came with a property and you called one of those guys, they'd probably shell out the money quick. Absolutely. Okay, next thing, guys, is your constant comparisons. Comparing yourself is one of the most dangerous things you can do. Very dangerous, because you do not know what is behind the scenes. Instagram is a very great tool, but it's also a very detrimental tool too to a lot of people, because it could provide you with a lot of inspiration, but it could also provide you with a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress, and also a lot of, how would I say, doubt. Because what happens is that just because you went to high school with somebody and you see that person driving BMW and you're driving around in like a putt-putt car, you don't know what that person had to do to get that car. Maybe they're in debt, maybe it's rented, maybe it's their cousin's car. And what happens is that we start to get down on ourselves because we haven't reached their level of success. And we don't know what level that is, because, how would I say, appearances are very deceiving. They're not reality. Reality only becomes, perception only becomes reality when we allow it to become reality. And that's what happens with our brains. We perceive things, and then we start to consider it as being the truth or the final word. Growing up, I used to think that all the guys around me who used to be dressed up fly and used to have new cars, new kicks, and money in their pocket all the time, I thought those were rich guys. I came to find out that those are the guys who just had all the money that they had in their whole life in their pockets at that time. The guys who would be walking around with a simple shirt, beat up car, those are the guys who had all the money. And I said, well, maybe it's just a one-off. Maybe it was just with these guys. And then going on to different industries and different industries, it all became the same. It's human nature. It's called peacocking. What happens is people sometimes, they want to appear as they're so successful because they're trying to make themselves feel better about themselves at any cost. There's guys that have rented Lamborghinis and all this other things and crazy stuff just to appear successful when they really are in debt, owe people money. It's just they're in a downward spiral. They probably live in their mom's basement. And then what happens is that you have these other people, women and men alike. You see it more with men than with women, but it still happens with the women with the shoes who don't even pay their rent, but they have Louis Vuittons. You know, it happens because people they have this empty void inside themselves, and they feel that they got to measure up to someone else's standards, and they only get that temporary fix when they buy themselves something that's not necessary, something that's not even, how would I say, comprehensible to half the population in this world, that you would spend that much money on something, but you do it anyway because it gives you that moment that you feel like, okay, now I'm better than my neighbor. My neighbor only has the $600 Louis bag, and I have the $1,500 Louis bag, and nobody even cares. Nobody even knows. And you're like, why would you even obsess over things like that? I would much rather see someone go from being 200 pounds to being 150. I'm more proud about that than I would be like that 200-pound guy bought a $200,000 car, because anyone could spend their money on that. You'll find a way to spend it, borrowed or stolen or however, you can do it. But to lose weight or to become someone in life who is an inspiration is a lot more powerful than anything you could buy, because that's temporary. You could crash that car, you could get stolen, you could die in that car, anything, but becoming a better version of yourself, that sticks with you for the rest of your life. So don't ever compare yourself with what you see someone else doing. Not with your partner here in the office, not with your neighbor, not with your high school friends, and with no one. Only compare yourself with yourself. That's it. If you're doing better today than yesterday, great. If you're doing worse, then you need to get your ass in shape, however it is, physically, monetarily, however it is. But always compare yourself with the older version of yourself. It's good to have people to look up to, where you kind of want to mirror their results, but do it in a way where you're mirroring and not a way when you're comparing. Because if you find someone, let's just say like you guys, a lot of the guys in this room, like Grant Cardone, you guys see he has thousands of properties, or units, and he has a level of success that a lot of people want. Now, there's a healthy level of mirroring there, okay? But never one where you have resentment towards yourself because you don't have it, okay? maybe because he had a quicker, maybe he started his successful years earlier on in life than maybe you, but still, it doesn't mean it's the end of the road for you. You know, he might lose all of that tomorrow. You don't know. But all this should matter to you is that if you do use him as a kind of like a place setter where you want to get to, take all the good things out of it, not the bad. Which I mean by that is learn all the lessons that he can teach you now, but never take it where, okay, well, I gotta be him by a certain date. No, you don't. You just have to take those lessons and make yourself a more valuable person than you were yesterday, a more valuable person 5 years from now. And that's why it's good to have these mentors and have these people in your life, because you can learn things a lot quicker. Because if you just stick with what you know today, you're going to be stagnant. You know, if we're not growing and learning, we're dying. So always definitely learn and don't compare yourself against anyone else besides the person you see in the mirror every single day. Okay, very, very, very important thing. And you know what, before we move on, this happens a lot with siblings. I don't know if you guys have brothers and sisters. It happens a lot with siblings, you know, that, you know, they constantly as kids compete for their parents' affection, and it's not healthy because, you know, obviously parents should love their kids all equally, but it's unfortunate because they carry that on into life and they start doing the same thing with everything, and they feel like it's a constant battle with someone else. It never is. I mean, it's not. You're not. There is no game of life where you have to win by a certain date. You know, as long as you live your life and you create a life that you would want your children to have or children to see, then you know you did something good. You know, always take your actions as if, you know, they're watching you. If you have children, if anyone in this room who doesn't, you will figure it out one day. That once you do have kids, that everything you do in life is for them. Is, you know, is going to be a direct result to them. Whatever you do, whatever choice you take in life. Does anyone have anything to add this? Who has found themselves comparing themselves? Esther?
It's funny when you said I laughed.
Huh?
Because it's like, honestly, self-sabotage in itself is, when I list like my weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
that has to be like number one.
Yeah.
And comparison is something that I struggle with on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis. And it's one of those things where, like you said, I constantly have to remind myself, like, as to remind yourself of where you were a year ago. You know, remind yourself of where you were 2 years ago, because not just like in career-wise, but just in life. And like you said with Instagram, that's why I'm teaching myself not to get on social media that often unless it's work-related,
Mm-hmm.
because I can find myself scrolling through my friends' pages and seeing what they're doing and feeling as though, like, you know, they're so far ahead, and what am I doing with myself? Like, I'm not putting enough time for myself. And then I have to come back to reality, like, Esther, your friends don't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have responsibilities. Like, you can't shed the time that they can do.
Sure.
You know, like, they're being financially supported. You're not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the scenarios
Night and
are
day.
too different. So you're doing the best that you can do and be grateful for that.
Sure.
So it's like I constantly have to remind myself to be grateful for
Yeah.
what I'm doing, where I'm at. Remind myself that I'm not the same person I was a year ago, that I've
Mhm.
come so far and
Yeah.
I've accomplished so much. And I'm doing it, you know. It may not be where I want to be, but I'm doing it.
You getting there?
So yeah, comparison is it's really a struggle for me. It's a real struggle for me, but it's a struggle that I know that I'm able to combat, because I know that I'm not where I was and I know where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like just a constant reminder that the grass is not always greener on the other side.
At all.
That your grass may not be fully cut, but one of these days it's gonna get cut. So that's
Yeah, one of the things too you gotta remember is that even when we compare ourselves to ourselves, we might, in our road to success, in our road to progress, we might actually get worse for a moment and then have this breakthrough. So it's okay. Like, for instance, like, your money is not gonna constantly move like this throughout your life, like up. There'll be a time when you're gonna take a big dip so you can get that big spike later on. And don't think of it as moving backwards. Just think of it as making an investment, if it comes with money, with time, with family.
I just wanted to add, it sounds like a lot of this is also understanding that you shouldn't compare success or what you think of success.
Yeah.
You know, recently I lost a bunch of weight, and I constantly was saying, oh, I see my buddy, he's lost more. And I'm like, that doesn't matter. I'm still being successful in my own way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to what I need to get to at my own pace. But it happens professionally all the time, that it's like, when I edit a video, sometimes I think, this guy would have done it better. But really, like, I have my own art. This is my art, and I can make it what I want, and I shouldn't plan what his successes are and make it my success, because actually our goals are much different.
Of course.
And I shouldn't look at what he's doing and think that that's something I should be doing also.
Of course, brother. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so guys, constant comparisons are not healthy at all. It takes our mind away from where we should be focusing on. Let's eliminate that, and let's just start worrying about how well. You know what's a good exercise with this is journaling, keeping track of what is important to you, because anything you measure is what you're going to increase. So keep notes of whatever it is that you want to improve on in life, and I guarantee you, if you journal consistently enough, you're going to see like, wow, I did drop 2 dress sizes, or I did shed those 10 pounds, or I did, you don't wear a dress anymore. I closed 20% more deals this year than last year. Like, whatever it is you measure, you're going to improve. I guarantee you that, guys. Okay, reversing achievement. So sometimes in life we do achieve things, and we achieve great things, but we have fear around that achievement. So what happens is we actually revert ourselves back. So what I mean by that, let me give you an example. Let's just say that you hit a target in your net worth. And you're like, yes, I want it to be worth $1 million. And you get to that achievement, but then you start to get nervous because you feel you sometimes integrate achievement or your goal or your success with a negative side too. So for instance, let's just say your whole circle of friends is broke and you got to $1 million. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna be constantly judged, or they're gonna ask me for money. This is it's a bad thing. And then what happens is you revert back because you constantly start telling yourself that your achievement is actually not worth having anymore. It's not worth. You're not worthy of keeping that achievement. And sometimes what happens is that we talk ourselves out of that even being a success for ourselves, which is not great. You guys sometimes have to think to yourself, what have I wanted for myself that I have accomplished? All right, I got my real estate license. That was an accomplishment for everyone, right? And then what happens? Oh, maybe I'm not meant to be a realtor. This business is really tough. You know what? I'm better off driving trucks. I could make more money doing that. We talk ourselves out of this achievement because we don't want to fail. We don't want to continue failing in something new to us if there's still room to progress, or if it's something that we're actually really good at, but then everyone around us is going to start to criticize us for what we've accomplished. So let's just say all our buddies, right? We have this group of buddies we meet every week, and we have guys' night, and everybody complains about their jobs, and everyone's 50 pounds overweight. And then you come in and you're like, you know what, guys? I decided I want to leave my job. I want to start a business. I want to be, I don't know, in media or something. I want to be a media guy. I want to start an advertising company, and I'm going to start working out today and be nothing but positivity from now on. These other 4 or 5 guys are going to look at you like, who the hell you think you are? You think you could do this? Like, no, man, we hate our jobs, man. Come in to the pity party. Yeah, so then what happens is you just achieve something which was a breakthrough, but then you revert back because you don't want to be judged. Yes, sir?
I was going to share, like, oftentimes that also happens with family.
Mm-hmm.
And
It
it
does.
comes in a way of, like, loving, and, like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to put it, but in, like, loving, advice
Yes.
kind of way. Like, we love you and we want the best for you,
Mm-hmm.
so you should go get, like, a regular 9 to 5 so you can get, like, a pension, come, retirement age and Social Security, and you're just like, no. That's not what I want for myself.
Sure.
No, because I want to be able to give that to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to work for somebody else to get that. And they don't understand it. But they love you and they want that security for you. So at least this is once again personal.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've learned to say is, like, I'm grateful for your concern. I'm happy that you love me enough to want that stability for me, but that's not how I'm going to get it.
Sure.
And I know, like, what my passion is in life, and I know what my calling is in life.
Mm-hmm.
And going to a 9 to 5 and going to do something like that in that capacity, it's not going to make me happy. It's going to make me very resentful.
Yeah.
And also, you're not going to pay for my college debt. So,
Of course.
so we're not going to go that route. So it's like, especially with family, because I feel like oftentimes people take that advice because it's like coming from people who love you and want the best for you.
Yep.
But it's like you have to learn to sift through.
Yeah. The problem with family is it's very complicated, because it's not that they are hating on you, because it's not that. Is that with them, they think they're protecting you.
Yeah.
And that's just as dangerous sometimes, because it has the same effect on us. When people are hating on us, we start to doubt ourselves, right? And when people lovingly give us advice, and because they just want to protect us, we start to doubt ourselves. So it's the same outcome either way. So if your family says that to you, say, listen, I really do appreciate, the advice that you want from me, and I know it's coming from a good place. I know it's coming from your heart, and you don't want to see me fail. But I guarantee you right now, I would be much more hurt if I don't see my dream through. And just leave it like that, because there really is no other way to explain to them that their message is really causing you harm. It really does. But it's okay. I mean, it's all part of life, guys. And no one ever said that this was going to be easy. If it was, then you'd see more entrepreneurs and less employees. But there has to be a good ratio because, like you said, there has to be someone to write the checks, cut the checks, and pay the 401ks. So it's all right. We need another Esther in the world. All right, next topic, guys. Pushing people away. We talked a little bit about this during relationships, but pushing people away because of your attitudes, because of the way that you perceive everyone else, because of the me first always mentality, and I don't want to help anyone else. That, believe it or not, whether you might think you're doing yourself a service by keeping all the information to yourself, by keeping all the golden nuggets that you could share with the world to yourself, turning your back on people, never helping anyone, that is not actually helpful to you. That's actually a form of self-sabotage. So what you're doing is you're pushing people away, because you cannot be successful as one individual person. You need a group, you need a team, you need a family, you need people around you in order to take you to whatever level you want to be at. You can only reach so much success by yourself. After that, it's almost impossible. You can't run every position on your own. And I know Ed's not here right now, but Ed has a client. I know him as well. This guy is very, very, very disrespectful to everyone he comes across. Every single person. He burns through people like crazy. Mortgage companies have him blacklisted because he calls in screaming and disrespecting people. But he does this like every day. It's ingrained in him. But what he's doing is nobody wants to be around the guy because it's just like it's miserable. And maybe he has a lot of problems. He probably has a lot of issues, which I'm sure of it. I'm sure he has a lot of issues with himself. But he takes it out on everyone else, and it makes himself, I guess, feel better. I guess that's where he gets pleasure from, is by hurting others so he can feel better about himself, or having very little patience, blacking out on someone, and then feeling like, all right, that made me feel better now. I don't know what the cause is, but everyone knows people like this. I'm sure you all are familiar with someone who pushes people away, whether in a disrespectful manner or sometimes in a very non-threatening way, but just kind of like doesn't associate with anyone at all. Either way, it's harmful because we all need to be around people. We're social animals, we're social creatures. So being around other people, whether we like them or not, but finding a balance of how we act is very important. So pushing others away, whether you do it in a nice or a mean way, guys, is a form of self-sabotage. Lastly, lacking purpose. Sometimes we feel like we're not amounting to anything, and we have no purpose in life, and and I feel like this is almost kind of like the last straw after all these other issues have overcome us. Lacking purpose is when you're in a bad place, you're in a bad headspace, and you just feel defeated, and you feel like you have nothing to look forward to. You're not much of a father, you're not much of a realtor, you're not much of a partner, you're not much of a son or daughter. Like, you start just feeling like, what was I born for? And I feel like this is almost the last straw. Like I said before, the last straw. Like, it kind of goes in phases, and this is almost like the last phase where you're so down on yourself. Then you're like, what am I good at? I'm not good at anything. You start to have all this, this self-doubt, and it's just terrible because everybody's good at something. Everyone. God didn't make perfect people and terrible people. He made people with skills. And your job is to find what you're good at, because there is no such thing as the perfect person. The perfect person does not exist. That person died 2019 years ago. I don't know, maybe less than that. But what I'm trying to say is that we all have a purpose, guys. And if we spend our lives telling ourselves that we don't have a purpose, the sooner we're going to go to our graves. And it's because we're negative talk that invites illnesses, diseases, and we're not going to last on this planet for too long. But if we love ourselves and give ourselves that self-talk every day that you are good enough and you do deserve, giving yourself those affirmations and not having those thoughts in your head where there is no purpose for me to be in this office. There is no purpose for me to be in this world. There's no purpose for me to be in this family. If that's all we tell ourselves, we will convince our brain that, and our brain will take it to the extreme at times. There's been people who have taken it way too far, and we don't want that for ourselves. We don't want that for anyone we know. So if we see someone who does this, offer them advice, talk to them. You just hear them out, because what you see is the symptom. You don't see the cause. Sometimes we judge people by their symptoms, but we don't know what it is that's truly bothering them, or sometimes they don't even know what's truly at the root of all their self-doubt or their negative talk to themselves. So lacking purpose, guys, if anyone could give me an example of maybe something or someone they know, or an example, we'll end it with this portion of it. I know it's a pretty dark one, but yeah.
I'm not going to say who it is, but
Mhm.
it's somebody in my family.
Yeah.
And she finished high school early, and she had a lot of ambitions and all these goals, and now she's 23, and she just has no purpose, no. As much as I tried to feed her advice and tell her, do this, do this, do this, do that, she just doesn't have it in her. She doesn't want to get a job. She believes everything should just be handed to her.
Mhm.
Here you go, here you go. And it's not that. So she just, as much as I love her,
Mhm.
she really needs to get her life together and realize you're not a little girl anymore. If you're going to do grown-up things, there are consequences.
Yeah. Real.
And in regards to the sabotage to herself, it's like, how many times do you have to keep getting burned over the same thing over and over again? It's like, when is enough enough? And I just wish that she could just see what I see and know her self-worth.
Yeah.
And know that she does have substance in this world without doing all the negative and the self-sabotage that she does to herself. It hurts because, like I said, she's somebody in my family. I love her very dearly, and she's so young. She has so much life ahead of her.
Mhm.
And I just wish that she can just stop what she's doing and just go forward and know that there is light on the other side, and that there's so much more to life
Mhm.
than what she's doing.
Correct. Yeah. See, the problem with that is that you don't pull the strings. All you can do is offer love and give her advice, and the rest has to be up to her, because experience is the best teacher. So she needs to hit a low before she
So
can
many
recover.
lows. It's
Yeah.
like, when is enough?
Oh, yeah, and hopefully she snaps out of it. Listen, I went through the majority of my 20s just screwing up too, until I kind of just figured out what the hell am I doing with my life. And that's why this is important, because we all are our worst enemies. If I could have started with the mentality that I have today at a much younger age, it would be a different story for me. But we sometimes have to experience those lows in order to know that this is not the life we want for ourselves, and pray for her. That's all you could do. That's all you can do.
At this point, like even right now, my heart just feels so heavy talking about it, because I know what she's capable of.
Mhm.
But because I keep telling her, it's people, places, things.
Mhm.
It's the people that you have in your life. When you know when something is not right, we all know right from wrong. So it's not like she doesn't know, but she just has no care, which is very, very sad.
Mhm.
Which is very sad.
Yeah. I
So
get it.
right now I am at a point where I actually have, I'm loving her from afar.
Yeah, you have to.
Because I just want better for her.
Mhm.
That's all I can say.
I agree.
just want better for her.
I agree. Well, you're doing the right thing. Sometimes we think that by intervening constantly, we're helping, we're enabling.
Enabling.
Yeah, we absolutely are. So One of the hardest things I ever had to do in my life was cut the strings to certain people to let them grow, instead of me having to constantly baby them or watch them. Yeah, I mean, you're not doing anything. I've seen it time and time again, especially with men for some reason, that they don't grow up until they cut the strings. You got to figure life out on your own. And I've seen it a lot of times, and just to me, it just seems like, you know what? Sometimes we love them more that way when we let them experience life on their own than when we just say, oh, okay, you hit a low, let me pick you up. Oh, you need money? Let me pick you up. Oh, you need someone to talk to constantly and then go back to doing the same thing? Oh, yeah, let me be that person. Let me waste my time. Sometimes it's better to just let them go and learn that the world is a cold place. The world could be very harsh, and the people that you think are always going to be there for you are not going to be there if you don't play your part. You know, so it's not all a take. And what happens is we're creating a monster by doing that, because we create people who are dependent, correct? Yeah, but abusers, people who are abusers, and there's a word for these kind of people who are, what was the word that I used? I forget the word, but they're just people who are out for themselves, manipulators. We're creating manipulators, and you don't want a manipulator, because a manipulator, all they do is find a way to get over in life. That's all they do. They just find ways to get over on people. And you should not be a taker in life. You should always be a giver, absolutely. And the more you give, the more you will receive. But if you condition them to be all the time manipulators and takers, then that's going to be their survival mechanism. The survival mechanism has to be hard work and gratuity. That's what it has to be. All right, good. I love everything that we talked about today, guys. Thank you so much for this. I feel like I've grown a lot from it. Hopefully you guys took some of it away for you as well. The one thing I will ask from all of you guys is that you're more conscious now with yourselves. Be more conscious now when you feel like you're being a self-saboteur, okay? When you guys are taking yourselves down a path that you shouldn't be down, just be conscious. And even though we can't, hit a light switch, snap your fingers, and get out of it, I know it's not that easy. I wish it was. I know there's times where I'm like, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it. How do I get out of it? Sometimes we just got to know that we're doing it, kind of isolate yourself for a moment, get your thoughts straight, and then come back to the world. But as long as you guys can be conscious now when you're doing it, it's one step closer to you guys being able to control it. It's kind of like, Bruce Banner, the Hulk. He can now control the Hulk. But at first it was just like this thing would just come and like, oh my God, it's going to be a rampage now. But over time, if you guys watch DC movies, over time, Bruce Banner has been able to summon the Hulk as he pleases, or control the Hulk as he pleases. So, that's kind of like a dumb analogy that I want to give you guys, but it's true, because we can cause a lot of damage. We can cause a lot of rampage when we talk from our feelings, when our feelings are not in the right place at the moment. So hopefully you guys took that away from today. I will now what I'm going to do is give you guys a quick group activity. It'll probably be like a good 15 minutes. I'm going to give you guys the self-sabotaging worksheet, which I hope you guys are. I'm going to send this to you guys now. What I want you guys to do is just take notes down, write down your answers on it. I'm going to email it to you guys now. Okay. Everyone should have the email now. I just want you guys to be able to write down your answers. I'll read through some of these with you guys before we start. All right, so whoever you're sitting next to, or if you need a partner, or you guys can get into threes if there's an odd number of people. If everyone has the worksheet, I want you guys to go down, everyone, write down your answers, and then compare them with your partner once you're done, because it's good to get these kind of things out. So number one reads, how would you define self-sabotage? What does the concept mean to you? Number two, what do you think of self-sabotaging behaviors impact on your well-being? How do you sabotage things in your life? Number four, can you identify any particular patterns? What can you do differently? How can you commit to ending self-sabotage? How can you learn more? How can you reward yourself? And what will you do when it's hard to stop self-sabotage? What will you do when it's hard to stop self-sabotage? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys about 15 minutes, please. I want you guys to write down your answers. Not that I'm going to call on you guys or anything like that, but I just want you guys to be able to write down your answers and then compare with your partner, so that way you can get some ideas about what maybe your partner would do, so it can help you out as well. Okay, this is a good exercise where you guys can be transparent. You don't have to hold back, or you don't have to open up too much if you don't want to open up too much, too personal stuff. But definitely write down what is on your mind. Okay, important. So take a quick 10-15 minute break and allow you guys to do that and then we'll come back. Oh, hey, how are you, girl? How was your vacation? You guys had a blast, it looks like. What's going on, bro? How are you? Good. Just came to get my coffee, man. Miss you down there. How would you guys define self-sabotage? If we can get just, yeah, anyone. Esther?
So my definition for it is destroying growth and opportunities through negative thoughts and actions.
That's a good one. Destroying growth and opportunities, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Very, very good.
I had the like almost exact opposite.
Yeah. What did you have, Tom?
Inner thoughts that prevent you from growing and achieving.
Yeah, there is no right or wrong answer as long as you understand what harm it could cause to you.
Things you said,
Yeah,
flip it.
the opposite. Yeah. Okay, next question. How do you think self-sabotaging behaviors impact on your well-being?
Promotes personal growth.
Yes. Yeah.
Can make you sick, make you sad, keeping you in a depressive state, and keeping you from achieving your goals.
All that is true. Absolutely. There's a disorder called being a hypochondriac. That's when you think you have every disease in the book, and you end up having them because you think you have them. It's crazy the way the body works.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah.
They already had everything.
Yeah.
Think you might have.
You self-diagnose yourself like, oh, I think I have. No, I don't even want to say it.
My back.
Oh, my back always hurts. That's true. How do you sabotage things in your life? Someone's got to be transparent with this one. Anyone want to tell me? We have David in the back.
I wrote down procrastination.
Procrastination is huge.
That's a really big problem of mine. I don't know how I made it through college.
Uh-huh.
I would have to like pay people to write papers for me. It was really bad.
Wow, man.
Not where I went.
If I'm not interested in it,
Uh-huh.
I can't do it.
Procrastination, huh? Yeah, procrastination is a dangerous one because sometimes we don't see it. Procrastination disguises itself as you being, how would I say, you preparing, you know, because like, oh, I'm not a procrastinator. I'm just preparing. No, that's procrastination too.
Time
That's
sneaks up on
procrastination,
you.
huh?
Time sneaks up on you.
Yeah, time sneaks up on you, right? Like I tell the agents, you know, I tell you guys all the time, hey, let's make some calls. Yeah, but first I want to practice my dialogue. Then I want to
look up somebody.
yeah, I want to see the information before I call it.
Thinking about it.
Yeah, and I want to record myself before I call anyone.
Guess
Like,
what?
yeah, no.
The hours of
Before you know it, you never ever made any calls at all. Okay, let's see. Next one. Can you identify any particular patterns? Can you find a pattern in your life that creates you to, that leads you to be a self-saboteur? Can anyone give me a pattern that they start to find themselves in? Yes?
I withdraw
Dorothy?
and refuse to participate.
Oh, you withdraw yourself. Yeah, that is definitely a pattern because then the withdrawal is the first part, and then it leads to other negative thoughts, and then it leads to other negative things, and then it's a spiral, right? Yeah. So it's important to identify what is it the first sign of a bad thought. What's the first sign of you being a negative thinking person? You know, self-sabotage happen. It doesn't happen just in an instant. There are things that lead up to it. So with me, it's when things don't go perfectly, when things don't go the way I imagined it, then I start to kind of get like this kind of feeling like, oh, all right, well, I guess it's not going to be that way then. All right. Okay. And then I'll just tell myself it's okay for a little while, and then I'm like, that's all I can think about, and I'm like, oh man, I'm stressed out. So then I got to go and I got to break that pattern. See, the thing with patterns is that they only work if you continue to do the same thing you've always done, right? Yeah, that's what a pattern is, right? But if you break a pattern and you consistently break the pattern, then that pattern will no longer have an effect. You've created a new pattern. So if your pattern is, oh, I start to withdraw myself, I start to have negative thoughts about the other person, then I start to have negative thoughts about myself, and then I start to resent the people, and then I get into a dark space and I don't want to talk to anybody for 2 days. That's the pattern that I normally have. But what if I was upset about what the person said, but before I got a chance to withdraw myself, I told that person how much I loved and appreciated them. You just created a new pattern. What you did is you diffused the other person and you told yourself now something positive instead of something negative. And if that situation ends up becoming good, then you can walk away and saying, wow, I completely won that argument, situation, whatever that was, because you got a different result. So we all know that the old result was you being depressed by yourself for 2 days straight. This new result is having someone tell you what their real problem was and working through it instead of being at each other's throats. Relationships with people, it sounds like, you know what's funny is that we tend to fight and argue with the people we love the most. Think about it, right? And then what we do is we just hurt the people we love. So instead of doing that, why don't we stop ourselves and find a way to break that pattern. You know, do jumping jacks in front of them, and they're gonna be like, "What? Why are you doing jumping jacks for? We're in the middle of an argument. It's better than fighting, right? Let's do some jumping jacks together, right? Let's sing karaoke. Let's sing Daddy Shark and Mommy Shark. Do whatever it is, but that fight. Don't fight." Oh man, this is hard stuff, guys. I'm telling you, it's not easy. What can you do differently besides the jumping jacks? I gave you guys too many examples. What can you guys do differently to break that pattern? Give me an example, someone. Gina.
Break down your big plan. Take one written goal a day and just do it.
Yes, that's a beautiful thing. Writing things down, having a list, so powerful. You know, your chances go skyrocket. They skyrocket. Your chances of achieving what you want skyrocket the moment the pen touches paper. So if you, like you said, one thing a day, write it down. Have that goal for your day, and then just constantly remind yourself of it throughout the day somehow, some way. It'll get done, and you'll feel good about yourself. That's for sure. Next thing, how can you commit to ending your self-sabotage? Anyone want to volunteer on this one? How can you commit to end your self-sabotage?
I wrote in fear, live your life in a healthy and prosperous way.
What do you fear of sometimes, Jen? What are you fearful of?
Let's say not making it in this industry because I really, I'm starting to like, I mean, I always knew, like when I was in property management, that I had a lot to bring to the table.
Yeah.
But over there, you have a building and you kind of know like this is your little space, and now going out and knowing all the competition and it's just sometimes I get in my own head in a sense, and I know I am great at what I do.
Yes, you are.
I just need to get over that fear and say, okay, you got this. Just go straight. You see the prize. It's right there. Just keep doing what you're doing.
I knew it from day one. I had no doubt. And that's funny that sometimes people see it in ourselves and we don't see it in ourselves. You know, and that's really sad. But we have to start learning to love ourselves instead of being our own enemy. If I could see it, Jen, you should be all over yourself, because you get to spend 24 hours with yourself, so you know yourself better than I do.
You can
For sure. Okay. How can you learn more? How can you learn more? Try to think of some subjects on which you'd like to become better educated in. What would you guys like to learn more about to make yourselves a more valuable person that is not constantly sabotaging themselves in their productivity?
I wrote be a better person than you were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Self-improving, always improving yourself.
Yeah, analyzing the previous day and making sure that you take the best out of that day, replicate it, take the worst, and figure out ways of not duplicating that again.
Absolutely.
That is really big, guys. So in sports, I know that Tom could comment on this. On sports, you guys watch a lot of your old games, right? You guys watch film, they call it, right?
That's all you do.
In film, what you guys try to accomplish is you guys try to replicate what works and fix what didn't work.
Sure.
And learn your opponents, all this and that, right?
All of that sort of stuff. And you take a team sport and you break it down into individuals. You know, I was like, a good example is this. We used to talk about offense because I was primarily an offensive coach for a long time. So we're always looking for the perfect play.
Yeah.
I have one at home. I'm serious. I have a picture of the perfect play.
Okay.
11 people doing what 11 people are supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there he goes.
Yeah, but the perfect play is only perfect if everyone executes.
Everyone, 11. That's the great thing that's the thing I love most about football. Football is the true team sport.
Mm-hmm.
You can have 10 guys do something right, one guy screw up and mess up your whole thing.
It's like an orchestra.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what I was getting at is that Tom watches film to improve on what you've done in the past. So what you're saying is the same thing. We need to see what we did yesterday and reflect from that and grow from it and take away everything we possibly can. Tom?
Identify your weaknesses.
Absolutely.
Identify your weaknesses and see if you can improve on them.
Yeah, that's what you guys watch a lot
Just
of.
like you standing up there, you'll look at what you said today. You'll go back, you'll see what you said today, and next week you'll say, well, maybe I could have done this differently, or I could have done that differently, and you'll get a little better maybe.
That's it. That's all that's what it's about. Okay, how can you reward yourself? Anyone? How would you reward yourself? Instead of beating yourself up all the time. Tom, how can you reward yourself?
Set goals, and when you achieve something, do something that's just for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, I agree.
Not for anybody else, just for you.
Absolutely, just for yourself. A reward could be something as simple as giving yourself the afternoon off and going to a park and resting or meditating, reading a book, whatever. Go to lunch, take the afternoon and play sports, or go to the gym, or do something that's...
Take a nap.
Yeah, something that's... Yeah, you take a nap, do something that's for you without feeling guilty about it.
The best reward, take a nap.
It is. That's such a rewarding thing, man. I love, especially at our age, it just feels great to nap.
Another kid.
Yeah, kids. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Gotta get up so early for them. What will you do when it's hard to stop sabotaging? What will you do when it's hard to stop self-sabotaging? Esther?
I will reach out to my support network and pray.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, that's the way that it's been done all along. Why the 12-step program is so powerful is because you have that support group, you have an accountability person who can get you out of that rut. And that's great that you brought that up, because that's why we created our morning accountability group, because it's really hard to stay focused on yourself. But when you have others that you can rely on and know that they're going to push you just like you're going to push them, it gets easier. So yeah, if you find yourself getting into this rut where I'm like, oh, I don't feel strong enough, I don't feel like I can do it, I get nothing but negativity, my deals are always dying, my clients, talking smack to me, all these things happen, and they will get you, if you let it. And I had a day, I remember, this is going back to maybe 5 years ago. I had a day where I believe I had 3 transactions die on me the same day, like all the same day, 3 of them. And I just got to the point where I was so frustrated that day, I had to go to my car and I had to scream at the top of my lungs, because I was gonna explode. But I got it out of my system. At least I did it. I screamed. I was like, what? What the hell? Why? But then I just let it be, and then I let it, and then whatever it happened, and I wasn't gonna sweat it. But it just came back. The deals come and go. Don't sweat a deal. At times we're like, why me, and we have that pity, for ourselves. But hey, it's just part of life. Nothing's guaranteed. You can lose your job. At least I still had a job to go back to. I didn't lose my job, but I lost a couple deals. You have your hand up, or you just okay? You just making sure the door doesn't fall. Make sure that door stays up, okay? All right. Yeah, so great example. Lean on other people, guys. And I know, Alejandro, like you said, it was hard for you to count on other people because you've always been so independent. But I get calls from you guys a lot asking for advice and help. And it truly does warm my heart to know that you guys would count on me to bring you out of a rut or to help you with advice. So always, you can count on me. You guys can count on each other, I'm sure. It feels good when someone asks you for advice, believe me, or somebody could think, ask you to, how do I get out of this? Maybe because they see that you're more of a positive energy in their life. So, talk to someone that that you're comfortable with, and ask them to be your accountability person if you ever find yourself, in those positions again. Good exercise, guys. I'm really proud of you guys for taking the time to do this.
Very good.
And I want to now give the stage to Mike Giglio so he can tell us about himself. I'm excited to hear more about Mike. Mike, it's all yours, brother. Let me give you the mic. Let's play in the back.
Hello everybody, my name is Mike. I started working here, I guess, 2 months ago-ish, give or take. I graduated William Patterson University in 2005. During my time there, I had met my wife. We got married in 2010. 2015, I had a daughter. She's 4 now. Graduated with a communication degree. At the time, they called it television and radio. It's not really relevant anymore. Luckily for me, I went back to school, took a couple more credits, and had it changed to media production. much more relevant these days. At the time, everybody thought I was crazy getting into video. They said it's a dying art. And then a few years ago, there was a boom in it, and now it's the place to be. It used to be really hard, and now you could find the jobs in New Jersey, where you used to have to go to New York for these jobs. I was lucky enough to be in New Jersey. In the beginning of my career, my first job was at a place called Ascent Media. It was a distribution center. We would download from satellites video feeds and then uplink them out to the rest of the country. But my first job was actually working in the library there. I was a librarian for all the tapes and all the film, and I'm talking about old stuff. All the soap operas. We held all of them from the beginning of time. Sporting events, all this stuff, and my job was to take the old barcode off one of them, put the new barcode on, and put it in the system. And I hated it. But I knew what was going on the other side of the door, and that's where I wanted to be. And they told me it'd be at least a year before I could do that. And a year was too long doing the barcode work. So what I started doing was taking my lunch breaks on the other side of the door and just sitting in, making friends, and watching them work. And within 3 or 4 weeks of that, one of the guys quit. And I had already made friends with all the other guys there, and they had suggested that I get the job there. So in a month and a half, I was on the other side of the door, and it was awesome. I was in the syndication department, so what I was doing was taking shows that were syndicated across the country, and I was putting the national commercial spots in them and sending them out. Some of them were older shows, and we were covering the old commercials and putting new ones in. Some of my clients were Maury Povich, South Park, Jack Hanna's Animal Planet, News Radio, a ton of cool shows, and I was getting paid to watch them all to make sure there was no problems. So I literally had to watch every minute. I had a cool sheet from South Park, was the words that they were allowed to say and the words that they weren't allowed to say. And I had to sit there and make sure that none of those words got said. You see the TV PG logo in the thing, I was putting that on. We were all this technical stuff that was going on in the background I was doing. And it was cool, except for the place was run pretty much like a high school. They monitored how many times you left the building, how many times you came in. I got in trouble once for leaving an extra time. I literally went to go buy a whole department coffee and donuts, and I got in trouble on my way back in, and that's when I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start applying for other jobs, and luckily I did. I got my first job in Manhattan, and as I was saying earlier, that was the place you needed to get a job. You needed to go to Manhattan for what I was doing, and I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to work for a company called PSYOP, P-S-Y-O-P. They took their name from psychological operations. They were a marketing company, so that's what they did, and they were the best animators in the world. Like, can't compare. Some of the best artists I've learned from, and some of our jobs were Budweiser, Nike, Adidas, Scott's Lawn Care. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've been told we were the ones who sparked Betty White's career back. A few years ago, we did a Super Bowl commercial for Snickers, where the guy's acting like a whiny old lady, and he's hungry, and he's Betty White. 2 weeks after that, she was on Saturday Night Live, and 2 weeks after that, they gave her own show, and that's the power of marketing. She got back in it with one Snickers commercial. But that's a ton of stuff we did. We did all the Allstate, where the Mayhem, the guy is always doing all the crazy stuff. He was always in our office. So I worked there for about 9 years. During that time, I guess 2015 it was, I had my daughter. 3 months later, I got laid off, which was crazy. So I was really comfortable over there and doing a lot of good work, and I was really happy, and I got laid off. I'd gotten the tip I was getting laid off from someone I knew there. So I got ahead of the game and started calling heads of shops all over Manhattan. Got called back in 2 days, said, "We want you, when can you start?" So I was like, "Hey, I need to get fired first before I can come start for you, because I think they're gonna offer me a severance." So I had to wait, and luckily I got a 4-month severance. Got let go on a Friday. On Monday, I was in a different office getting paid full time again, and was working for another company doing similar stuff, a little bit low key, but we still had big clients, so I loved it. And I was learning actually more skills because it was a smaller company. But every Friday they'd say, "Can you come in next week? Can you come in next week?" And I couldn't live that way. I needed to know that I was going to be there the next week. And they couldn't do it. So I kept applying and applying, and I got a dream job of mine. I worked for NFL Films, and I worked in the telecine department, which adds the color to the film. I would go in every Sunday night, midnight, and work until all work was done. Grading, we would put the color on every game that they shot, and I was already watching the game, so that was awesome to me. And we also got footage, the audio from when the guys were mic'd up, and you could hear them talk to each other on the sideline, and that really interested me. The problem with that was it was so far away from where I lived, and when they offered me a full-time job to be there Monday through Friday, they lowered what that rate would be, and it didn't make sense for me to travel so far to make less money. So I started editing weddings and making some money editing weddings. Shooting the weddings was not my thing, and I knew I couldn't make a living on just editing them. So I decided to just look for jobs in New Jersey that I knew I could do, and because I didn't want to go back to Manhattan. So I ended up, my most recent job before here was a place called Global Productions, and we ran meetings for corporate companies, but in a creative way. So they'd have these meetings with anywhere from 300 to 2,000 people, with big stages, 90-foot screens. I'd be doing the graphics for them, the videos. We'd do a ton more. Even if there was physical art or something, I'd be the one who was commissioning it, arranging all their flights, arranging all their hotel, all this stuff that I had never done before. And I was doing it well. And I actually got a bonus, 2 bonuses and 2 raises in my first 6 months because I was doing more. They actually lost an employee and they didn't have to rehire them because I was doing that much work, and which was great. But the office was 4 people. 2 of those people were husband and wife, and they ran the company. And I often felt like they needed to have the final say, and it wasn't always the right decision. And it happened more often than not, and that I didn't agree with something, and I would watch it fail, and they wouldn't take my advice. And I was like, you know what, I need to be respected more than that. And I started looking that week. Literally, I found the Indeed posting from Culture, and a day later, I came in on an evening to meet with Joelle and Lewis, and everything Lewis said was like in my mind and on par with the way I believe things should be run. And I knew like this had to be the spot I had to come to continue my growth in my career. And it's great because I'm able to apply. That last job I had that I didn't feel so great actually taught me a ton. Because like I was always an editor or a graphics guy. I was never booking hotels. I wasn't dealing. The internet's not working. Go figure out why. And like on the phone with Verizon, on the phone with Microsoft. Whoever I needed to go talk to accomplish things. And I actually started learning that if you just do, you're going to accomplish things. And I was always like at home when my internet's not working. I'm like, what the hell? Like I don't put the work in to fix it. I just either deal with what's broken or I wait for an upgrade of some kind. But it started teaching me that the more action I put out and the more I attempted to do things, the more things got accomplished. And that's actually what forced me to kind of look for the new job, is because I know I needed to go out there and just do it. It wasn't going to come to me. And here I am. And the Monday meetings I didn't know existed. And when they did, I love coming here on Monday. I've fully grasped the positive atmosphere and applying it to your own life. I take every lesson we have here and I bring it home. I teach my daughter, teach my wife. My friends laugh, but I call myself Positive Mike now at home. And I tell, it's funny, a little anecdote. A couple weeks ago, my buddy had a housewarming party, and I go over and he's got a river in his backyard and he's teaching himself how to fish. And he has like a really crappy reel, but he learned how to use it. My buddy, who's a hunter, he's like, you got to get rid of that pole. I brought you a brand new one. And it's like a professional pole, and my buddy has no idea how to use it. So we're sitting there out there, and he's trying to fish, and he says, I mean, this is nice, but I can't get it all the way over there. And I said, the good thing Positive Mike is here, because the first thing you did wrong was say you couldn't do it. And I was like, you just got to do it. Just do it. And then right after it went all the way across to the other side of the river, and he just looked at me. He was like, we need Positive Mike around more often. I was like, you could do it too, And it's just funny that something so simple. And coming here on Mondays, really, even at home, my house is cleaner. I'm eating better. I'm making better choices just all around, because some of these things I've done before some of these lessons. But like if you take the butterfly effect lesson, it's like they all just keep building up to make better things happen. And I'm super grateful and have a lot of gratitude for being able to be a part of it.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
That's my thing. That's my life. Yeah.
Well, congrats. Yes? Question for Mike? Tell us about Mike in the. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I become Positive Gina?
You could be Positive Gina. It's great. You get a couple of laughs in the beginning, but then all of a sudden they're like, the buddy calls me now and he's like, I need a Positive Mike take on this, and I'll give it to him. And I've only been here for 2 months, so
Yeah.
it's
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that we're rubbing off on you. That's great.
yeah.
You mentioned that you like hip hop, or you record yourself?
Yeah. Since I was like, who knows, a young teenager, my friend and I used to rap to each other all the time, and then we became friends with the kid who was the computer nerd. Who was like, I could record all this, right? And so we started recording them, and then people would hear them and be like, that's actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that turned into when we would go to parties, I'd have to rap in front of everybody at the parties, and then oddly enough, when I got to college, a couple of my buddies, we went to a party and there was a live band playing and they were passing around a microphone, everybody was rapping, and I went, and at the time I was the best one who had went, and then the next 3 guys were really good, and we actually became really good friends, started making music together. We set up a studio in the dorm room. I wish the technology and social media was out back then, because I'm too old for it now. I'm just like, I'm part of this group called Grind Mode Cypher. For those of you who don't know, a cypher is a song that has no chorus to it. Someone raps, the next someone goes, and it's a rap, and about 4 or 5 people. So we go around the country and we shoot these videos. We'll shoot like 6 or 7 videos in a day. Each one has like 5 to 7 rappers on it, and then we all go out for drinks and dinner afterwards. Yeah, but I mean, there's a couple hundred guys involved, and whenever you can make it to a location, you go, and we all know each other, and it's a great thing. But I'm taking part of it now, and they call me the Cypher Dad, because I'm the guy who 3 months ahead of time, I'm like, we need to get a hotel, we need who's driving, if you can get to New Jersey, I can get you here. And if I wasn't doing that, all the guys are, I'm just gonna head down on Friday, I don't know, we'll find a place when we get down there. And I was like, I can't do things like that, I have to take my time off of work, I have to get the hotel. But it's fun, they keep me young, because I'm still good at it, and it's still therapeutic to write. So I enjoy putting it down, I enjoy getting the final product of the video, and I enjoy listening to everybody else do their thing. So
Let's hear it rap.
I'm not gonna rap now. There's Positive Mike, and then there's
So you edit as well?
No, so I'll help when he needs, but the guy who runs it all, that's what he does for a living as well. But it's actually a cool thing that he's got going. It started as a small thing in, I believe, New Hampshire, with maybe 10 or 15 guys, and now it's across the country. They hit Denver once a year, LA, we go to Ohio, I think, twice a year. One time I took a Greyhound from Newark to Columbus, Ohio, overnight, went to the festival, performed, hung out for 2 hours, went back to the bus station, hopped on a bus, and came home. It was 13 hours each way, and I was only there for 5 hours. Yeah, and I learned the buses are freezing cold, and even though it was the summer, I didn't pack like a jacket or anything. And this old man, he's like, "Son, do you want to wear my jacket?" And I actually said yes. That's how cold it was.
I thought he was gonna ask me to cuddle.
No. I was considering it. But yeah, and I do that now. I'm recording a 5-song album right now, so I keep that going. That's my hobby. I never pursued it as a career. I've always liked video.
And how many kids do you have?
I have one 4-year-old girl, Carmela. Mm-hmm.
What was Mike like as a kid?
I was quiet. I was a quiet kid. My parents divorced when I was really young, and I'm the only child from them. And I think part of that made me real quiet as a kid. But then I moved around a lot, so I made friends everywhere I went. And I played soccer in one town, went to school in another, and then when my mom got remarried, I went to another school. So I've always had a lot of friends, but I don't have anybody who I've been friends with since I was really young. And then when I went to high school, I went to a regional high school, and I moved there a week before the school year started, so I didn't know anybody. But the good thing was, it was 2 towns, so everybody just thought I was from the other town. And I made a lot of friends because everybody was looking to make the new friends from the other town. And those are the people I consider my friends.
Cool.
And they've made me the outspoken person I am now.
Yeah, you jumped around a lot, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Lyndhurst, moved to Bloomfield, moved to Hillsdale, went to school in Wayne, moved to Fairlawn. Then my mom lived with my mom in Hackettstown for a while. And now I'm living in my own house in Woodbridge.
Yeah, you've been all over the place.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
And I make friends everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Even the weird ones.
You're really good in sports at
Yeah, I played college soccer. I ended up quitting to coach a high school team, varsity, and we won the state section. I'm a goalie, so not letting the other team score is big for me. And we won the state section, and we didn't let up a goal during the whole tournament. And that's like the most proud I've ever been of anybody, is watching these kids. And then I remember at halftime, I gave them this monumental, like, cinematic speech of, guys, we're 45 minutes from winning, but that's not important to me right now. We're 45 minutes from not letting anybody score who tried to beat us. I was like, it's 45 minutes. We played all season to get to this 45 minutes, and let's do it. Some of the things I may share in here come from that experience of like looking good, feeling good. We would make them shine their cleats before a big game and think about wearing them the next day and the plays that they're going to make and visualizing their success. The guy who was the head coach above me was an older guy, and he was doing it for like 30 or 40 years, and just all that kind of like positive mentality stuff. We had a word of the year, and it's my word of my life now, is accountability. It's meaning that if you could be accountable for yourself, that means that anybody else can count on you. But if I know that you're being accountable, then I don't have to think. I know you're going to be doing what you need to do as long as I'm here doing what I need to do. So I do that at home, I do that professionally, and I do that in sports too.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yep. Does anyone else have a question for Mike? There's a couple things that I took away from Mike. One thing in particular. You're good. So Mike mentioned that he was at a job where he wasn't happy with his position, but he wanted the other position. So instead of being miserable in his position, you still did your duties, but then he tried to integrate himself with the other side of the company as quickly as he could. So he created, instead of saying, oh man, it's going to be a year, and let that determine his attitude and his fate, he took fate into his own hands, and he did what he had to do in order to get to where he wanted to be quicker. So what happens with most people is they just succumb, and they say, you know what, all right, if it's going to be a year, then I guess I'll just grind out for a year, and I'll be miserable for a year. And then when a year comes and you still don't get that promotion, you get even further down on yourself. But he took it into his own hands, made friends with the right people, started integrating himself with the people he wanted to be with, and life tells you that if tell me who you hang out with, who you are, and that's who you are. So he hung out with the people who he wanted to be, and then that's what he became. He could have stayed with the librarians and maybe became a librarian, right?
Yeah. It's a funny title, but yeah.
Because everybody be quiet, but no, he took life into his own hands and he created his own reality. So that was awesome. I really like that part about his story. But one thing that I don't think anyone here knows is that I actually called Mike to tell Mike that I wasn't going to be able to hire him because Mike couldn't start right away, and I needed someone to start right away. So I had to pick between Mike and Jonathan. So I told Mike, I was like, listen, the reason I can't pick you is because I have someone else who's just as qualified as you, but they can start Monday. You know what he said to me? He's like, I don't care if I got to work for you nights. He's like, I want to work with you. So that shows me the level of, certainty of himself that he wanted to be with us. And it meant a lot to me. So I told him, it's not in my budget to hire 2 people, but because of your response, I'm going to find a way to do it. And I did. I found a way to hire 2 people instead of 1. And now I couldn't see myself with having just 1 because they're both so critical to the company and they're both so good at what they do. And, I had to push myself. If I teach you guys every week, push yourself, guys, push yourselves. You create your own reality. And then I go and I'm like, you know what? No, I don't have enough money. It's believing it. But I don't know if I could afford them, but I was going to find a way to do it. And I hired both of them, and it's been the best decision I think I've made so far. So because of his response, it triggered me to think, snap out of it. What am I thinking? Thinking small. I'm thinking small right now. I need to think bigger. So I thank him too because, it was obviously, he could have picked anywhere else to work. He's very skilled. I don't know if you guys ever seen Mike's edits and Mike's graphic design, but he's incredible. He's really good at what he does. And he could be working in New York City right now, probably making double what he makes here, but he's here with us. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm cognitive of what he's worth. And I know that he's worth a lot more, but for the time he's given us his skills and his professionalism, and I'm very grateful for that. And he is an amazing person to learn from. Believe it or not, this guy gives more than what he's asked to give. So I'm really happy he's here. And if you keep that mentality too, guys, you guys will get where you want to be, because that's what he did. He said, look, I'm going to be there because I want to be part of that. And that's what he created his own reality. So I remember your comments when you first came and I spoke to you. You said, look, I didn't know what to expect when coming there, because I was like, a real estate company, media, like that makes no sense. Like, why would you need it? But then you went home and you told your wife, like, oh, I get it now. Like, I didn't know what to expect, but now I see that there was something there.
Yeah, you spelled it out. I mean, what you're trying to do with media is stuff that I've had in my mind for a long time.
Yeah.
But I've always just worked for the big companies and then just did what they because they're just about the dollar at that point. Who's going to pay them? But there's so much more that's needed local, and there's these businesses and people who need the advice that we can give them, or the product that we can give them, and they don't have it right now. And I know that it's a part of business that they could use.
Yeah.
And you're utilizing it.
Yeah,
in like
it's a platform.
The perfect way.
Absolutely.
To set a brand up.
Yeah. Well, guys, give Mike a hand. I'm really happy that he gave us. Thank you, brother. You did an amazing job. Okay, guys. So for our next week, Mike, you get to pick someone. Has someone not gone yet? I think David, you haven't gone yet. Gina and Dorothy haven't gone yet either, right?
Does anybody want to?
Yeah. Does anyone want to volunteer for next week to just give us a background on where they come from, what they? Don't be shy, guys. Oh, there she is.
Positive Gina.
Positive Gina. That's what I thought. Positive Gina. Since she set herself up for that one. All right, great. All right, so let's go through our announcements now, guys, and we can get out of here. First announcement, guys. Anyone who wants to get in on the action, the Culture Hustlers, that's our accountability group that we meet every Tuesday to Friday morning, and we make our prospecting calls. It has been a complete success since we started. I think every week we're averaging about 15 listing appointments, which is insane. That's really, 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 really great numbers. So if anyone's interested in getting in on the action, whether you're watching this at home or you guys are here who haven't participated with it yet, every morning we get together around between 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning. We're here to about 12. We make our calls. We do all the productive stuff early on in the morning, and then we get on with the rest of our days afterwards. So if you guys are interested in getting in on that, let us know. You just have to make a commitment to do it consistently. It's not a one-off, unless that's all your schedule allows you, one day a week. I get it, maybe on your day off, but one day is better than nothing. So whoever wants to get in on that, more than welcome. Tom, we got dialogue training this Wednesday?
Yes. A couple of things about dialogue training. The next 3 Wednesday nights, the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th, will conclude it for a month. July, I got a bad horse I got to get rid of. So
Okay.
July, I won't be here.
You won't be here.
But what we want to try to do with this, we're going to pick any subject that we've talked about before, anything that you feel somebody comes and feels they need work on, we're going to work on it. We'll do it as a group, and then we'll do some of it individually. But if you want to improve your skills, the next 3 Wednesday nights will be really good, and I hope we get a lot of people here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. Okay, this Wednesday at 6 p.m., guys.
Right.
Okay, so guys, I know a lot of you guys have noticed that we have a studio, and it's pretty much completed now. You guys are welcome to use the studio if you want to record some stuff on your own. You guys can use your cell phones and do whatever, or even if you want to do an audio recording just put as a podcast, you guys can use it. Just be very mindful of the crew that's working next door. Don't be it's not a place to have a party or to go and have crazy time. It's meant for you guys to go in there, record your clients. If you guys want to record what's that called, a review on yourself, or if you want to interview a client or interview a friend or interview someone, you want to use it for your own marketing, go right ahead. Unfortunately, the guys are not going to be the ones recording you. You guys have to record yourselves with your own cell phones, tripods, your selfie. But the acoustics and the lighting is really great down there, guys, so you could take advantage of that. Tom?
Real good way to dialogue practice.
Yeah, dialogue
If you
practice.
learn the dialogue, just go back there on
Record
your own
yourself.
and, like you have a mirror in front of you, and see what you look like, see what you sound like.
You can record yourself, absolutely. Okay, guys. Now, lastly, yeah, something I'm very proud of, guys, which I want to share with you guys is that my goal for a very long time has been to grow Culture State to 100 real estate agents. We're at 96 right now, which is getting very, very close. I think, and I don't want to jinx myself, but I think in the month of June we're gonna make it. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Just wanted to share that little bit of positivity from my point of view with you guys, because it is very, very, for me it's emotional, and it's also how would I say, like a landmark for me. So thank you guys for making that part of that. And really appreciate everyone who has been here and who chooses to be here with us. Yes?
Can I answer?
Yes, of course.
Hey guys, we're producing a new segment. We're calling it Culture Goals. I'm trying to take over the hashtag Culture Goals. So if you guys are doing any steps of achieving success and you're on Instagram, just throw the hashtag Culture Goals on it. And if you want to participate, part of our segment is a video segment. We're going to be putting on a larger show. And we want to, if you have a 1-year goal that you're looking to achieve, and it's something that we could monitor over the course of 12 months, then you can talk to me and I can get you signed up and we can start shooting those as soon as this week. Whatever the goal is 1 year, and then every month I could check in with you. But if you don't want to do it and you still want to participate in the hashtag, my goal is to take over hashtag Culture Goals on Instagram. So if you guys could help me do that, that would be great.
They can keep coming back and reporting progress.
Every month. So if you want to participate in a larger role, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, you become like a piece of a segment or
Yeah,
the
and then at
character
the
in
end
a
of 12
segment.
months, hopefully you've reached your goal. I know it's not going to. Hopefully it's not all positive, because hopefully you don't make it easy for yourself.
Yeah,
But
there'll be times when it's
at the
bad.
end of 12 months, if we can get everybody who was a full-time participant, we can get them in here and talk about what it was like. So it's not just good for you for your personal goals. It could be good for your brand also, to show your commitment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And guys, it doesn't have to be monumental. It's whatever personal goal you want to use. Or if you did something really epic one day, you're like, oh man, this was so awesome. A year ago, I would have never imagined this. Hashtag it, Culture Goals, Cool. Good stuff. All right, guys. Anyone want to add anything before we close out? Anything, any bit of piece of information you guys want to add to the mix? Okay. All right. So we'll close out with our prayer. We can get done a little bit early today, which is always a nice thing. Get a head start in our day. All right, guys, please give us a second, bow your head, and just take a moment to reflect. Father God, we thank you, like we always do, once again, for having us all together in one place. We thank you for the health and prosperity you have given us, and we thank you for the little things that we don't get enough opportunities to thank you for. We thank you for the air that we breathe. We thank you for a beautiful day. We thank you for the rainy days. We thank you for everything you have delivered to us in our lives, which all have strengthened us and built our character to this day. We ask you to look over our friends and family and to look over us over this next week until we meet again next Monday, and just continue to give us knowledge and make us better people and better versions of ourselves. We ask you for one thing, is just to be the example that we have to be for others, to be for our children, and just guide us and mold us into the people you want us to be. We love you and we thank you for everything that is in our life. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, guys.